Thank you very much, Kyle. Indeed, myself and Dustin here, and we're right into the action straight off the bat. Onto train. Post-plant, HellRaisers looking to hold on 3v3, and Sotfik with the USP is going to try and lock this one down and retake. They do have a kit in which to use. Dima's pushing up on the blue train. Beautiful one tap from Sotfik, and out in the box is going to see some action as JR rips round the corner. Flaric puts a bullet in the head of Dima, and it's looking pretty good for HellRaisers to hold on for their plant. Sotfik has to come back on. He's going to land another headshot that goes down to the final bastion of hope, which is Flaric, and HellRaisers take the first round. Dust, a bit of a frantic start. How are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, we really didn't, have a whole lot of runaway there, did we, Vince? We had to take off pretty fast, and HellRaisers indeed did take that round pretty convincingly, though it was down to one player at the end of the day as well. So they are going to have to spend pretty much all their money to be able to get that second round bye after the plant, and we are going to see the force up from ESPADA here on train. And to be honest, Vince, I was a little surprised to see this map come through because I feel like both teams have had mixed results here.
Yeah, it's been a bit topsy-turvy, hasn't it? And obviously it's going to be a long day of Counter-Strike. I think we're going to see a lot of head-scratching moments, head-scratching decision-making, but as it stands, ESPADA go in for the force. 2 scouts, 3 deagles. HellRaisers looking to try and play fairly standard, just sending the one player in Kalinka over onto Ivy while they're trying to sweep into main and also through on Pop Dog. So ESPADA so far haven't lost any players. These 2 scouts, the later the round goes, can have a lot more impact.
Yeah, and Dexter's going to be the one to keep the eye on. He has definitely been one of these up-and-coming, sniper prospects. Obviously, the AWP being the main thing that we're talking about, but that certainly can translate over to the Scout. Someone like Fallen, obviously very famous for that. Same for some of the guys over at Mouse Sports, like Boxic and Chris J. Very well known for the scouting, so I'm sure Dexter could probably put a pretty good shout at it as well. You see Sotfik up close on T-Con here, able to pick up on Kalinka right away, so that is great. We have upgrades to the Galil, and we see the push coming into inner, but so far ESPADA is dealing with it very well. Finnegan with this deagle is ruining dreams, it seems.
And leaving it just down to Jillian with the AK. Down he goes to Patsy. So the force bite from ESPADA gonna not just yield the round, but there's gonna be 3 rifles.
Yeah, that's always tough, man. If you're HellRaisers there, that is not the type of loss you want to be taking when you really struggled to win the pistol. You had 4 players go down, and you bought all that you could, and now you basically have to go on a deco. They do have the one AK-47 on JR, so he's kind of the glass cannon, so to speak, almost in a way, because he's all by his lonesome. But we'll have to see what he can do, if he can play the raid boss, if he can try to pick up on something. Obviously, kind of one of the veterans on this team, coming over from Vega Squadron from many years ago. And we'll see what he's got.
On back foot instantly are HellRaisers. Firepower not necessarily lacking, as you highlight with the AK. They have some deags alongside it, but it's lack of utility and a real lack of a hope of bursting onto a site. That's going to help matters, though. Problem drilling into the head of Dexter with the deagle. Bit of nade damage inflicted back. And another 1D. Kalinka not going to be able to get 2 in a row, but right off the bat, ESPADA are struggling. And now the AK is going to be used at range to mow down rest of HellRaisers, who are trying to hold their ground. JR sprays out wildly, down to 4 HP. Flaric's on 2 HP as well. And now Finnegan and Dima have a mountainous task ahead of them. Dima drops the bomb down. Problem now going to be making moves through on Pop Dog. Spots himself, Dima, takes him out of the equation. 30 seconds to play with, and Finnegan, 1v2. How has it got to this point? 1 AK, 4 deagles, and this is a winnable round now for HellRaisers.
Oh, indeed it is, especially since they were able to pick up another AK-47. The thing is, they are both pretty low on HP, and Finnegan does have a kit, so there are still some ways for him to win this round if he's in the right place at the right time. And he already has spotted down Problem, takes him down just to 2 HP. That is going to put him at quite a vulnerable situation. If Finnegan can just maneuver himself in this 1v1s, there still is a way he can pull this off, but he's got to be very careful.
And down he goes, Problem. at range with the AK. The one AK-4 Deagles are going to be a success, and ESPADA will be reeling. They're going to have to force, again, 2 players down to $1,500. So a real game of cat and mouse, and the economy absolutely ruined.
Yeah, this has been a real tough time for both these teams when it comes to the economic situation, just given how scrappy things have really started off here. But both teams are unwilling to throw in the towel. You're seeing the force back right away from ESPADA, double scout and the triple deagle, very similar essentially to what their second round buy was after losing the pistol. But it's really just kind of that economic game of chicken, Vince. Like, eventually some team will lose 2 times in a row, and then they will have to take that save, and that's where one team can start to take a little bit of control. And HellRaisers right now are in the driver's seat to be the ones doing that, but they have taken some huge damage on 2 of their key players, and that could pose some big problems.
Yeah, no doubt. Softened up by the scouts. Puts them very much in deagle range now, anywhere on their body, and they will fall down. Hitchy also for Finnegan. So HellRaisers, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, Dust. Every single rough force buy seems to be getting the early damage down and really making this sting. Big entry comes through on Ivy, but at the cost of more HP. And now they're moving out into Dexter's scout. He drills into the oncoming tease. He gets traded out, however, almost instantly. Only 1 player has full HP left. And Problem is going to go down. Not with too much fight either. 2v1. The HP advantage in favor of the CTs, but there's JR to put a bit of sanity back into this matchup. And ESPADA's force buy not going to work out, but damage has been inflicted again.
Indeed, a lot of rebuying is going to be forced here, so it'll keep HellRaisers' money low, but there's not much ESPADA can really do about it right now. They have finally taken those key losses in a row to force them into saving territory, so you probably won't see much purchased here, maybe some P250s at most, but no, they'll actually go for the full USP save, which is definitely a good idea. They need to, you know, get that money flowing again, so they can actually try to put up some type of resistance, because HellRaisers are starting to get a nice early start here on their T-side train. They're going to go with a triple Ivy opening to kick things off. It was an inner stack here from ESPADA early, just trying to gamble all that you really can do in a round like this when you only have the USPs, and now they're all just kind of sitting in back halls and waiting, Vince, waiting to see where they need to go. They're going to obviously just probably take charge at wherever they hear the first noise.
That's the thing. You just want to stack together with USPs. You want to go for those gambles. It probably won't work out, especially at this range, but maybe if they can get an early headshot, things can get interesting. Kalinka has received one, 33 HP. He's going to be backing away into the potential embracing arms of the player on the site, which is Dimmer, but he's also fallen. This is where the superior firepower is going to be way too hot to handle. Only the 1 kill coming through. Honestly, not too bad, all things considered. They've taken an AK away from HellRaisers, and our ESPADA will be into a full buy, as you said, as a result of their full eco.
Here's the question, though. Is Dexter going to go for the Glass Cannon AWP? That's what he's known for, and I feel like that is what this team rides on, is the star power of Dexter. I feel like after him, the fragging really falls off. I feel like he's really the key player. Dima's good for some good fragging here and there, but really, I feel like Dexter's been the one to kind of put the team on his back a lot of the time. And unfortunately for him, to, you know, go for the op would have meant no armor, so he does go for the M4 instead. And utility is also so very low, Vince. Their economy is still suffering from kind of the early skirmishes we saw, and I think this puts HellRaisers in a really good spot. We are going to see Flailers and Dexter maybe take a little duel here at ladder. It's certainly going to burn Dexter out of the room.
That's the rough exchange. Like, no damage done in return. You want to throw a grenade up there, but Flaric just dropped straight down again. Smoke was put down, and he fell for that bit, hook, line, and sinker. JR at range is going to put down Sophic, though, from middle. And so at least the man advantage has been nullified. And our ESPADA can try and get back into this round of respect of Kalinka now pushing into Ivy. 1 kill goes his way. Can't hold on to the spray to double up. And Patsy is doing so much work outside, but his HP is running out. Problem also able to get around on the flank, taking Finnegan off the server momentarily. And now B site is ripe for the take.
Yeah, they were looking to do some type of pinch on the outer bomb side there, but they're just going to call the audible after how things went. So bomb will get planted inner instead, as the Deagle over here at Spools. Problem now shifting over as well to help. There is going to be one CT here at Cloud position. Will he be spotted? Yes, blindsided by Dexter. Is going to be Problem just putting it to him right there. 2 big kills and just a really good flanking maneuver from him. 3 kills on the round. That inner maneuver is really what wins HellRaisers the round. They were able to, make that quick adjustment from their initial game plan, take what was given to them, and put a 5th round on the board. They are in firm control now of this map. The economy of ESPADA is still in ruins, and a timeout has been taken from ESPADA in response.
Understandably, the start has been pretty rough, pretty grim. They got the force buy win with the 2 scouts and instantly got nullified off an AK-4 Deagles. And since then, they've just been slipping away. At least they have been keeping HellRaisers' economy somewhat honest. You can see, even though it is 5-1, you got a couple players down below $1,000 and Flaric down to 2,000. Obviously, Problem does have nearly 1,000 at his disposal, so that's more of an issue. But ooh, that grenade. What the hell was that? Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know you would want to get rid of that nade sometimes because you've misfought and you want to purchase something else, but, doing that chip damage to your teammates as you get rid of it is not really something you want to be doing. Luckily, there's not much firepower out there to really take advantage of that, but that is just like one of those like small things that you're just, it's unfortunate, but that'll pick you right back up, Vince, when you're able to still line up an easy spray down like that and the round's over in the blink of an eye. HellRaisers now up 6-1. Money is going to be back for ESPADA, and finally, Vince, Dexter will be able to grace the server with the AWP, and this is the guy to really keep an eye on. If there's any hope at all for ESPADA to get back into this game, it's going to be off the back of his sniper, I would imagine, and so at least now he gets to take a crack at it.
Absolutely, especially considering I completely agree with what Desk was kind of discussing with Train being more CT-sided. You started 6-1. You've got an open your hands finally as a result of these force buys not working out. This is the moment where Dexter has got to stand tall. Hopefully the pressure doesn't get to him because he must realize he's a huge part of this puzzle for ESPADA making the...
You also have to understand, the last time these two teams met, ESPADA absolutely swacked HellRaisers, bro. Like, they dominated them in both the matches they played. It was in a sector tournament they played last month. 16-5 and 16-4 were the scores where ESPADA won both those games. Now, neither one were trained, to be fair. But going from just absolutely rinsing HellRaisers to now being on the opposite end must feel pretty rough here, but it is still early days, still a chance to recover. And again, we do have Dexter with AWP to finally maybe flex his muscles a little bit here and see if he can't put a stop to what has been a very frantic game, if we're honest, Vince. Like, the rounds have been very chaotic, very scrappy. It's been sort of like just when you have 2 punchers out there boxing it out, just very aggressively.
Yeah, just exchanging haymakers pretty much. It's been fast, frenetic, and honestly, a lot of CIS train, if you go back to like Flipside, for example, very slow, very methodical, very rigid. This has been anything but. This has been chaotic. This is one of the slowest rounds we've had, but still, both teams have been getting those small victories across the map, getting little bits and pieces of real estate. 25 seconds, though. HellRaisers have got to start to...
As you said, time is ticking. The utility is starting to pour in towards this inner bomb site, but I think it's a bit of a fake. It's all a sham, and they have certainly pulled that extra rotation from ESPADA into the inner side. This has accomplished its main goal. It has pulled everyone out of position. Even Dexter with AWP is forced to draw back away from Z. Bomb gets planted outer for free. Still 1 T lurking inner halls. This is a really dire situation positionally. In fact, so much so they might just have to, already call it and say events, which is kind of unbelievable considering the numbers still on the server.
Yeah, as a direct result of the fact of what we were just discussing before, the AWP is such an integral part of ESPADA's potential comeback. They're keys to a comeback and victory, and they know it. They went for the gamble stack. As soon as the A site was hit, just keep the 4 players alive. Keep that AWP, keep the M4s. And it does mean they can rinse and repeat, but the problem here, Dust, is they're running out of time. It's all well and good, you got to say, but you're going to be 7-1 behind on Train CT side. That's
Yeah, it's pretty bad, Vince. It's pretty rough. There's really no nice way to put that. You got ESPADA players calling out for HP. That's never a good sign whenever you feel like you're not getting the kills that you want. It's always those mind games. 7-1 seems to be that inescapable scoreline in Counter-Strike. And where do we go from here is going to be the big question. Like you said, ESPADA needs to get online. That round, they got absolutely outplayed, outmaneuvered, out-rotated. But let's see what happens here. Very fast push up Olaf. Patsy able to get the opening frag. So there's a start. But JR very quick to respond to AWP of his own. Get it right back into a 4 versus floor. Flair's just starting to get a little bit of ladder room control going perhaps here soon.
The amount of times that we have seen at opening pick the entry get counted almost instantly.
Yeah.
ESPADA going to be submerged one more time, though. It does leave them very barren and vulnerable on B side. It's only Finnegan here by himself, and he's about to get peeked down from JR, who flicks across. And with Finnegan's death, the B side will follow. They also have Kalinka, and they have plenty of funds to go for this flank. They want to try and neutralize as many ESPADA players as possible and destroy that economy. Don't allow them to save another AWP. Force them to rebuy if possible. And ESPADA instantly go in for a counteractive save. HellRaisers, 8-1 lead already. Dust, honestly, I thought this match would be much closer to start off with.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Again, I mean, considering their previous matchup where ESPADA absolutely dominated HellRaisers, you know, 2-0 with, I think, only combined 9 rounds from HellRaisers in that best of 3. Considering the fact that, you know, Dexter has just been absolutely putting up fantastic numbers over the last, you know, few months here in 2020 and all the online play. Considering HellRaisers basically had to completely restructure their team recently. I mean, this HellRaisers team has only been playing together since like mid-May. So they really don't have that much time under their belts. And, you know, a lot of their players like JR, who used to be fairly good, like, remember his Vegas Squadron days, it was like him and Mir were kind of considered, you know, these two upcoming talents from the CIS region years ago, the upset over Nip in the Major, you know, all that good stuff, and all that happened after that. But he really kind of slowed down. And, you know, then you have a couple of players in this team who are very, very inexperienced, like Problem and Jam. Like, they both have not really played much Counter-Strike. So really, I feel like in a lot of people's opinion, Flair's was going to be kind of the one that was going to have to perform for this team. But we've seen really everyone doing quite well. Like, this has actually been a, I don't know if you want to call it a complete surprise per se, but it certainly is going well better than I anticipated.
Yeah, sure. I would definitely kind of go along the same lines as that. I mean, I suppose there is an element of uncertainty when you look at some of these HellRaisers players and not really having a huge amount to really lock down in terms of research and knowing what their usual positions may be and the way they normally attack maps. Molotov put down into main is going to separate the majority of the T players. A grenade is going to be lined up. Sotfik was thinking about peeking in there, but needs to be very careful. And JL using the top of that smoke, and Dima never stood a chance. Another pick could turn into more as they just walk straight into main. They're going to get double sprayed, not quite flat. Finnegan stays in position and survives. Finally goes down, and HellRaisers have a player advantage again, Dust. We've been here before so many times.
We really have. It really has just become kind of deja vu at this point, where HellRaisers have just had their way with the ESPADA all over Train, just slapping them around. There is some hope maybe for ESPADA if Dexter can get the AWP going. There are a couple of softened targets, particularly Kalinka, who's only on 14 HP. And what the hell?
Well done.
That's just come out of absolutely nowhere, like an RKO, man, from the top turnbuckles. He's come out and just lined them up and knocked them all down. We've gone from Counter-Strike to bowling.
A full-on strike. Yeah, absolutely. A surgical strike. I mean, HellRaisers are known for being a little bit of choke artists, I'm not going to lie. Often they do get up heavy amounts of rounds and somehow lose it. So I'm hoping this isn't the start of something brutal, but good news for ESPADA.
So off guard. I don't know about you, but like, that was just out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, everything seemed to line up perfectly for Finnegan, and maybe that is the inspirational moment that's going to wake this team up. Maybe that's the moment they needed to... Exactly.
I thought you were going to get the speech, sorry. I was waiting.
Look, it's too early in the morning for that. Maybe later.
Maybe we'll let the desk do that, as you know they're out in the jungle hanging out anyway, so they probably could use a little bit of Braveheart in themselves to survive through all that. I have to say it does look pretty sick what they've done with the NS area for the tournament here. But what's also pretty sick is JR's opping. He's gotten both opening picks and almost found himself a third. That was quite close.
Indeed, even without the third pick, though, it's really put a huge hole in the defense of ESPADA, who, I mean, you have to consider that one of their rounds was a 4 spy that worked out with 2 scouts. The other one was a crazy 4K from Finnegan. Other than that, it's been pretty rough times, pretty rough sailing for ESPADA. Sotfik now going to be coming in. 3v4, JR is pretty low, but again, the time is ticking away horribly for HellRaisers. They've got to try and force them out. Before they've went for fakes, they've forced ESPADA into stacking sites. But this time, Dimmer is still perched up in heaven, still putting down the pain with the M4. Now Finnegan comes back into position. They need to get a kill really quickly here, HellRaisers, if they're going to take this round away. Finnegan going to spin around, doesn't catch JR behind the train, and problem now, dispatching of Dimmer. 9 seconds to go. They're going to get the plant, and Sotfik's not in position to stop this. It should be another round to HellRaisers, but another incredibly close one. And Sotfik's not giving this one up. He's still going to go in for it.
He's in position, catches JR completely off guard, and now into the 1v1. He does have a kid. He's got a couple of flashes. He's got time still to try to work this thing out. Problem needs to be very careful. He does have the incendiary to put on the bomb. There is no smoke to stop it, but it won't even come down to it. It'll come down just to a straight-up aim duel, and Problem will go ahead and put it right between his eyes. Another round coming in from HellRaisers. It's been a sea of rounds and just an island or two here from ESPADA. Absolute domination, Vince. This is looking quite grim.
Absolutely. I mean, the only saving grace, I suppose you could say, is that because ESPADA won that 4K from Finnegan, they actually have some funds to still go into. So they still have an AWP, they still have M4s. But it's got to be victories from here on out. Even 9-6 would be a brutal CT half. And it could be much worse. Finnegan, the timing on his side, problem going to go down. Not a single point of damage lost in the process. Big pick from Finnegan. Can ESPADA jump on top of it?
Is that the first time they've gotten an opening pick and not gotten immediately returned?
I think
it does feel that way. And they've even been able to follow it up with the second as well. So all of a sudden, we're starting to see maybe a few cracks forming, at least for this round, this one moment in time. Though there is a little bit of outside control being taken here, but Sotfik has got a great little angle that they're not aware of, and so Kalinka is going to go the way of the dodo. Just going to be put to rest here, and everything is lining up for ESPADA. I'm not sure how things have changed so much so swiftly, but ESPADA might have themselves a flawless victory, and it's come just out of nowhere, really.
Double ops also does. That's a huge pickup. HellRaisers is still brimming to the full with economy, and we have to buy, no problems, no questions asked. But as you say, ESPADA not just winning their third round, they've won 2 of the last 3, and they actually have double ops, an AK in there, and 2 M4s, and also the ability to buy in the next round regardless of what happens here. So as far as the last few rounds, gone well for them. Still, the overall trajectory of this half, not so much.
Exactly, like they still have lots of work to do, but at least they won that round clean, got some economy. That means they have full utility as well to stall out this really quick push from HellRaisers. They're getting absolutely burnt to a crisp, but they do trade even.
Trade even, Sotfik able to get the one before he inevitably collapses. Kalinka can't land the head on Patsy, so he will stay alive and pretty healthy at that. And this initial charge has been somewhat squashed. There's still T's out here, though, in close enough proximity. Falling down, Dima shows his hand, and JR takes off Finnegan from the server. But here's the fast flank from Dexter. Now shows his position. 2 kills go down. JR caught between 2 players. Still plenty of time left, but they have control over the bomb. And he doesn't have any nades to use. The Glock comes out, and the Glock gets both. Oh my god, HellRaisers is going to get to 10. And JR, the fastest gun in the West.
That's gotta feel like lead in your stomach when that's happened. Dexter, I felt, was finally coming alive, Vince. He got those big op kills. He had one of his first multi-frag situations that he's had all half. I feel like he really hasn't come online the way that he normally has throughout this year. I mean, really, if you go look at the numbers, Dexter has been so hot in 2020 for this team, and he's really just not woken up just yet today. And it looked like they had that dead to rights, and then somehow with the Glock, JR finds the 1v2. He's up to 14 kills, trying to flex his own muscles with the AWP. And it just seems like every time I think things couldn't get worse, they do. You know, something just happens to throw even more of a wrench into ESPADA's game plan, into their morale, I would have to imagine as well. This is... yeah, just brutal. I don't know how else to describe it, really.
it kind of feels to me like ESPADA are taking 2 steps forward and then 4 steps backwards. You know, they win a round, they get double ups. You're like, okay, here we go. Maybe they're going to wake up finally. It's the first map of the tournament. You know, maybe they're just kind of awakening from their slumber.
Sure.
And then you just get wrecked off jail with a Glock at the end. He takes both ups down. You have to buy once again. They're on 10 rounds, and everything just seems really rough.
Yeah. I didn't realize you had to take that many sets. I thought it was just like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. You've really taken it to another level I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, 1 step forward for each AWP they had, and then you lose them.
Oh, I see.
And it's just that crushing
so
blow.
you did like some quick mass there and like.
Yeah.
Okay. You got me saying mass now. Man, alive.
Good. It's about time. Mathematics. There you go. You've been educated, Dust. You welcome.
No. Can't be doing that. You've had such a negative influence on my life, really. It's really. I feel like I've only had positive influence on your life, though. Like for real.
You are so very welcome, Dust. No problem.
Yeah. Well, we have a bit of a pause going on. I'm not sure exactly what the issue is. I think they said something about a coach's mic or something like that. So we might have a bit of a second here while they try to kind of get that all sorted out, and then hopefully we should get back into things pretty quickly. As if we take kind of a quick look at the numbers, they really do speak for themselves. Absolute good performance really from everyone across the board on HellRaisers. I mean, I guess Jam, who's kind of one of the inexperienced players, hasn't really had a whole lot, but he hasn't really been called on to do a whole hell of a lot either, to be honest. 10-3 for HellRaisers. All of the rounds of ESPADA are off on their own. No round streak together. The last 4 rounds in a row have been back and forth, tit for tat. And really, we just haven't seen much come alive for ESPADA. I mean, I guess Sotfik and Finnegan have had their moments, but really, we've yet to see Dexter really hit the same heights we're used to, and this looks nothing like the previous time they played against each other. This is the complete opposite of what we saw, really. Because I mean, if I'm being honest with you, Vince, it really has been kind of tough times for HellRaisers. Again, they've only been together since May. They have like an 18-23 record online so far. They haven't really been performing well in a lot of the online tournaments that they've been playing. They've had a couple of series wins here and there, but they've also, been crushed several times. And so coming into this, I actually thought ESPADA were actually looking a little bit better. It's not like they have like a crazy impressive resume, but they've been together longer. They at least have like a positive win rate online so far. They've had this Dexter guy who's been putting up fantastic numbers. It looks like a prospect. Dima's been playing really well throughout the year. So I just was expecting a much different look than what we've seen so far today, but still a lot of CF to be played. So we'll see how things go as we're finally out of the pause.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a far cry, the HellRaisers lineup now, to what we saw in the past with Angel, etc. But maybe this is their moment where they are going to turn things around. You often learn more from a loss than a victory, of course. And as you highlighted, a lot of these players haven't been together for a huge amount of time, so that synergy may be very well building. HellRaisers, though, 10-3. Post-pause going to be coming in again. Slow round. Maybe anticipating that ESPADA would get some kind of desperation push coming in. That's not the case. 2 players are on Ivy, though, which is Dima and Dexter. So could be eyeing themselves up for potential flash into peak. And Problem spots the player down in Pop Dog, throws the smoke out, and everything ends a bit of a stalemate there. But now those 2 players on Ivy have pushed.
Smoke extinguished. Jam will use that to go ahead and push out, finds the entry there onto Patsy. The outer take is well underway. There is some slowing down taking place, though. Dima has picked one off. Dexter as well with the AWP. Sophic has a clutch position in heaven that was not checked. And this is getting chaotic once again, Vince.
So much damage, though, dropping down into the Molotov, but a slight gap in the smoke will finalize Flaric in round 14, putting it all down. Julian with 16 HP. There's Sophic, and there's a 4th round. ESPADA better late than ever. Have definitely had a turn of events here. It's been back and forth, a real up and down seesaw of a match these last 5 or 6 rounds, but HellRaisers again can buy no problems. Oh well, at the very least an AWP.
Yeah, and Gleals, so they've never had to really take a full save in quite a long time, but this is still pretty dire. You know, it's still not the greatest of buys. So a chance for ESPADA to, you know, finally win a couple of rounds in a row. They still have not done that all half long, but they could do it here right at the end and keep themselves competitive. They did a great job that round defending outer, but oh my goodness, JR is not slowing down. Izzy comes through, rips Finnegan right away. Dexter, though, goes unchecked in the top position, is going to find Problem, is going to find Flourish as well. Finally, he's been able to step up. That's some big kills. This could find ESPADA a 5th round.
It should do. JR did everything they could have asked for. Aggressive AWPing with the entry on ramp. And then since then, Dexter just really switched up the gears. You know, starting to push outside, though, and there's by and large vacant from the CTs. They overextended back towards Ivy, and JR is going to be easy pickings. Another peek goes in, narrowly misses out, but Kalinka goes on to Sopvik, who plays the same position 2 rounds running, and they're not going to fall prey to that again. Post-plant 2v3, Patsy and Dexter both have kits, but they only have an incendiary between the two of them. An important trade goes against Dexter, and now another AWP is going to swiftly change hands. And HellRaisers is looking good for this 3v1 post-plant. It should be 11-4. It will be 11-4, and JR's had an absolute blinder of a half. 17 kills, 6 deaths.
Yeah, it kind of, just to sum up the half, for one, very chaotic. Like you said, it was basically a slugfest, just 2 people throwing haymakers at each other all half long. And it's just HellRaisers were the ones that was connecting most often. JR's opping was huge. HellRaisers' aggression, I think, was felt throughout. JR's opping, obviously, was a really big highlight. And I think the other big thing to point out that HellRaisers did really well that half is they roll with the punches really well. They were able to very quickly make decisive calls mid-round to rotate what site they were hitting based on what resistance they were meeting. And it seemed like every time that they made those audibles, those quick calls, they seem to outmaneuver their opponent and kind of beat their rotations. And so with that, they had a brilliant T side of 11 rounds to work with as we roll into the second half and look at this from JR, getting a lot of information this T-Con push.
Tons of info, as you say, but ESPADA know that this pistol round is pretty much do or die here on train. They need to take this one down. Problem at the back of the yellow train is perched up. 1 kill, drops down. JR moving round the back, finds Dexter. That flank works to perfection. JLM, it's a bit of a deliberate couple of taps, but finally gets his man. It is going to be post plant, though. And ESPADA really are struggling. Every single trade at range goes for HellRaisers, and it's going to be another round. Both pistols, 12-4 lead. This is almost looking impossible now, Dust, for me.
Yeah, I think that that word starts to really come up in a situation like this. I mean, almost a team ace there as well from HellRaisers. Only Flair's not been able to find a frag onto that one. So a lot of 1v1 duels being won there from HellRaisers. And yeah, the good times keep rolling for them as they go up 12-4. And ESPADA, with that bomb plant, are going to go ahead and force up everything that they can, which is understandable. You know, a lot of teams will do that. But the issue is if it doesn't go right, you have no money left when HellRaiser starts to go for that run towards the finish line, and that could be a really big problem.
Yeah, they are walking a very thin line here on the tightrope for sure, knowing that if they fall, it will be to their demise. JR going to take a little bit of damage, but he does get information for that, just shoulder peeking with his scout. And HellRaisers... It's always the madness of the T-side economy where you lose the round, but then you look at the rifles and you've got an AK and they're 2 Galils. These are solid assault rifles. This is definitely not a round that you can take your eye off if you're HellRaisers, otherwise they will get forced again. Yeah,
but if you win, you feel like you got it down. You know, that's kind of the flip side of that coin. I think you're absolutely right that you need to be cautious, and now they know what they're up against with that headshot from Dima. This could be the start of something great for ESPADA. They're just going to charge out Ivy. They self-flashed, though. I think that slowed them down a bit.
Yeah, it is a good flash. And now allows the extra rotation to come in, but Dimmer not missing out with his skill. There's the spray for 2. And HellRaisers is looking like they are about to get forced. Dimmer with 4 kills in the round. Absolutely setting it alight. And our Problem can do little but try and turn tail and just save this MP9. If he can get a couple kills and exit frags, he'll be able to build up his money a little bit. But that's just what ESPADA were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, it's all she wrote in this round. Just a big individual effort from Dima. Obviously had some utility support from his teammates as he charged through Ivy and ripped and teared into that outer bomb site, Doom style. Fifth round will be put on the board. And so a little bit of life still there, Vince. There's still a little something there.
It certainly is. And although it is 12 and 5, you break down the economy, you're looking at a potential force buy for HellRaisers, players on 1400, 1500. Depends. I think a lot of time you would force, but when you have such a huge lead, maybe you don't. But they decide to go for it anyway, which is fair enough. Can't really fault them. So this is ESPADA's way back in. Now, they did already slip and slide a couple times against force buys in the first half, so that's going to be in the back of their minds.
Yeah, there's a lot of cushion for HellRaisers to go for a gamble like this, and you feel like if you win it, you kind of almost put the opponent in check and are a couple moves away from the mate. But if it goes wrong, then you're really giving a lot of breathing room to ESPADA to start closing the gap on the scoreboard. So it's kind of a double-edged sword situation, perhaps. Just look. All right. Okay.
Threw the molly into the rat's nest, and all the rats came crawling.
You know, like when you put soap water on the ground and it causes like the worms to come up to the surface, and that's how you get it for like fishing bait. That's basically what happened there in ladder room. That just blew my mind, man. Like,
I completely understand it from HellRaisers as well, because if there's one player up there and he assumes that he's safe, he gets overwhelmed, that's a potential gun, and that's the way forward in the round. And if you go pull back, you're running into a Molotov and you're getting wrecked. Like, your health is destroyed.
Yeah. Rest in pepperonis, HellRaisers on that one. Full USPs now.
That is the dark side of the force buy, of course. You are now down to USPs across the board and not too much of a hope or really anywhere forwards. Stacking on to B, the one lone player on A is going to be Jalem with the USP. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right or not.
Dude,
I feel like I'm probably
have
butchering
no idea either. Yeah. I wish I could help you, but I've got nothing for you. As usual.
Maybe someone could educate us on Twitter or on Twitch chat or something.
Educated.
Definitely.
Or you can throw us a tweet. Self-promotion, of course.
So. This round, though, is definitely going to be edging towards ESPADA sooner rather than later, especially as they have smoked off the gamble stack, and HellRaisers will be setting up for some exit frags, but not too much else. So at least ESPADA going to get a 7th round, 12-7, respectable scorelines now starting to shine through, and if they can keep the economy low on HellRaisers, there is a way back in now to this.
Yep, the door is cracking open. There is some light shining through down the deep, dark hallway that has been trained so far. Let's see if to walk towards that light. Always walk towards the light, Vince.
I don't know, is that a wise bit of advice? If you're walking down a train tunnel and the light starts shining, it could very well be the...
I don't know why you've had to take this and like literalize it, and then I don't even know if literalize is a word, but it's 3 a.m. for me, so like I'm gonna, just do it anyway. But I'm not sure why you've had to do that. Also, like, I guess if you're a bug, flying into the light's probably not good either. So yeah, you're right. I really didn't think that went through. There's actually quite a lot of situations where you wouldn't want to walk towards the light, really.
Dust. Literalize, I love it.
It's 3 a.m. Can you please just cut me some slack? Like, just please just cut me some slack.
It's not in the dictionary. It needs to be put in there, Dust. Definitely. HellRaisers with a buy, though. Not a huge amount of utility, but plenty of firepower. And JR has been smashed instantly from Dexter, who had read the script, knew that peak was possibly coming in, and just destroys him. And with that, could be the round to follow. Dimmer with a quick fire frag. Flaric is going to at least entertain the idea that this round isn't done just yet, but he eats a grenade for his troubles. So now they're going to be moving into box halls, where Problem is waiting for them with the Silenced M4. He is behind the box. If this goes unchecked, it could be a massacre. Flaric is still trying to hold it down on Pop Dog, still trying to buy up time for his teammate to follow in, and they've bypassed the situation completely, but they're planting safely. This is not going to be possible to be denied. And Problem is playing this look very slowly. He is waiting for the two-pronged attack back onto the site from his teammates who are coming through on CT. That does include the AWP, from the hands of JR into Clinker.
Problem is, T's up close, man, so they're going to cut off these choke points right away. They're not going to give any space for HellRaisers to push their way through, but that's okay. They might be able to force their way in anyhow. But not if Sotfik has anything to say for it. Now Problem just has to back off. Like, he was waiting. He wanted to be able to make a move, but he needed his teammates inside CT spawn to be able to kind of give him that window of opportunity, and it just never really came. Great on ESPADA to play those up-close choke points and post-plant. And like you said, they also did a great job in how they planted, like knowing that there was always that risk that, you know, they hadn't cleared the upper halls and someone would be there, and they were able to kind of maneuver around it and put up an 8th round. So now on this T side, they've actually won the last 4 rounds in a row, and they are getting the economy of HellRaisers into a place where it's kind of like a buy-save rotation almost. So they're really a couple of gun rounds away from tying this thing up.
Yeah, all of that power, all that fragging has been completely isolated and submerged now. And they are struggling. They are gasping for breath. Again, Problem's position there, I was a little bit disappointed that he didn't go a bit more aggressive, at least to start off with, and try and cut some of those angles for his teammates to do better with. Like, both coming through CT, that's expected. So I think he needed to do more work. Either way, that's in the past. You have to focus on the present. And that will see another post plant with ESPADA straight through onto A side. HellRaisers is saving 3 players pushing over onto T. And I assume they are going to just try and bodyguard this up and just pretty much tap out of this round and play against the next one.
Again, it's one of those rounds where you have to gamble with what they had to work with. It's basically just a full deco except for the 1 AWP on JR. The Deagles might do a little bit of hunting to see if they can upgrade to an AK or something like that. But as you said, you also want to make sure that op doesn't go away. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to do that, really. So a clean round for ESPADA. It's going to help build up their own economy. They're actually rolling in the dough right now, Vince. This has really set them up. It's going to be a while before HellRaisers gets ESPADA on an eco. They have to basically get themselves to map point first before they would do that. So many rounds in a row they would need to dry out ESPADA's funds. So this is actually completely turned on its head. Like the whole way I was thinking about this game is it's now topsy-turvy. It's quite incredible, really, how things have changed.
Yeah, here's a statistic for you, Dust, as well. In round 22, we've had 4 CT rounds in 21. 4. That's unreal how T-sided this map has been.
That's very true. I think it really just comes down to how fast these rounds have been. Like, I think neither team has really consistently been able to absorb the aggression of their opponent or be able to, you know, take territory for themselves almost in the CT side, you know, making sure that you're plugging up, you know, T-Con and ladder room and using your utility effectively to bog down your opponents, maybe even make information plays. Again, I think another big part of it, honestly, Vince, and it's something we talked about even before the game started, neither one of these teams, honestly, at least in my opinion, had a convincing train. Like, both teams came into this with very mixed results on train. You know, I think HellRaisers actually came in with like a negative win rate with this lineup. I think they had like a 5-6 record, something along those lines. And then their opponents, I mean, I guess you could say it was a positive win rate on train, but only just barely. And when you look at like their most recent games, it's been very back and forth. So I think that also has to do with it as well, is that maybe neither team has this map that well drilled in.
Also, a correction. But speaking of maths, it's actually 5. It was 4 in the first half, 1 in the second. So I can do maths. I promise.
It's always a risk, Vince, as a commentator when you try to do math. Always a risk. Sometimes it pays off. You share great insight with the audience, and sometimes you look like a dum-dum. And that's
it's a schoolboy error. Schoolboy error. Right, I think.
Do you have dum-dums in the UK? The sucker, the dum-dum?
We call them dummies, I think, if I'm thinking of the same thing. Like the babies have when they...
No, like a lollipop.
Oh. I'm not sure. I don't really have a sweet tooth, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I thought you meant like, you know, like a dummy a baby would have. I think you call them pacifiers.
Yeah, we do call them pacifier.
You Americans.
As if I'm like the one that's like made it this way or something like that. As if I'm just personally responsible for our differences in the English language. Why are you always throwing me under the bus? We're supposed to be a team. We're a duo. We're a partnership. I'm just getting abused all the time.
Yeah, but you
I
like
have
it.
a therapy session, couples counseling.
That would be some pretty banging content, to be
It
fair.
would be begging content for us to have couples counseling, like actually pose as like a proper partnership and like go into couples counseling. Just see how it goes.
Right, I think the tech issues have been resolved, and we are ready to get back into the action. HellRaisers 12.
Go on.
That was me done.
Like our careers much, really.
Oof.
Easy self-depreciation. But either way, we are going to see ESPADA gathering up a little bit here towards the inner halls with plenty of utility. So I feel like they're going to have a really heavy hit on this site.
Here comes the push. HellRaisers need to hold the line. They need to just stop the rot. Has been coming in thick and fast with these T rounds. A kill, but the bomb plant to follow. So it is going to be a retake coming in. Mollies have been extinguished and used. There is one left for Problem. He picks one up from the corpse of Patsy. That's going to be heading that towards the back of the site. Play pushing up on the Great Train through the smoke is going to be Problem. Waiting, anticipating, peeking in. Perfect timing with one, but goes a bit too deep, a bit too far. Can link it elsewhere, though, putting down the pin. Now Sotfik going to try and hold the line 1v3. As a Molotov puts it down on the site. There is a smoke there, but there's no kit. They need to pick one up. They need to get in this bomb right now. This is going to be incredibly close. I'm not sure they have this one, Dust, and they realize they don't. They have to pull out. HellRaisers keep 2 players alive, but they don't have time for the defuse, and ESPADA will pick up double digits.
Ooh, that's always tough whenever you feel like you outplay your opponent as far as the actual physical retake of getting the kills and getting back map position, but then just running out of time. But also credit to ESPADA for stalling it as long as they needed to be able to pull off the victory after what was a really quick hit, lots of utility. Definitely could tell that that was a set piece they had worked on, that they, you know, had in their playbook, which it's kind of one of the more tactical things we've seen, because again, a lot of this game has been a chaotic slugfest. So to see something like that shows that there is a little bit of tactical depth in their back pocket.
Oh, that trade so nearly goes away with them, Matt. JR had to just get out of there, pull the plug. He has one of the 2 warps, but he's down to 48 HP. Good utility has been deployed, though, into A main, and it does allow them a little bit of real estate picked up early on. Try and dictate the pace of the action, but they've taken a lot of damage in return. Jalen's also down to 50%, so this is a bit worrying for HellRaisers.
It is very true that there's so many softened targets out there on the field for ESPADA to maybe pick apart. Though, I will say the one good thing that HellRaisers has going for them is map control. Being able to have these forward positions. They also have like kind of a weird double setup towards the upper inner side, which could be fruitful. I'm not really sure. It's all going to come down to timing, really.
Timing is good. Problem. Dispatching of Finnegan. Eviscerating the initial push. Kalinka with the AWP. Perched up on catwalk now, going to fall down. It's going to be another post plant, but this time they have 3 kits. This time they have enough time to get their players around in flanking positions. JR through the smoke does clear. Perfect moment for him to strike. Nearly doubles up, and now Dimmer perched at the back. Oh, we saw Kalinka open up with the AWP. Does get one in return. Sotfik picked up a 1v3 clutch, albeit from his grave, and now he has to go in for another 1v2. Headshots coming in. It's down to Flaric. He's going to have to push the envelope. He's going to have to try and push the pace here. Back onto Sotfik. The time is running low, and Sotfik with another clutch. ESPADA are going flawless on their T-half. With the exception of the pistol round, it's been all their way.
Oh, this comeback is coming into fruition, and it's coming in an amazing way, Vince. The way that they're winning these rounds, it seems so crazy. Like, on the one hand, I want to praise ESPADA for the clutch play, for the smarts, for the composure under pressure, but on the other hand, you have to be critiquing HellRaisers. How are you losing that round? They played that out perfectly at the beginning. The way that they played that inner setup, the way that they got those initial kills with the AWP and Problems pushing to the inner halls with the M4, you're giving yourself these really big advantages. You're taking space, and that's the thing I was actually preparing to say, Vince. I was prepared to say that HellRaisers actually made a good adjustment, that they were actually like changing their CT setup and getting some information and taking some map away from ESPADA and setting themselves up to be able to rotate more effectively and getting opening picks. Like there's all these things that you could set up and praise HellRaisers for, all for it not to matter in the end anyway, as ESPADA takes the rounds and those kind of hectic post-plant moments. And now they're one round away from tying it up, and it's very likely they'll do so. Look at HellRaisers just on Deagles.
Who would have thought this after the opening to T sides started so brutally for HellRaisers? But we are within reaching distance. In fact, we're already there, Dust. Like, ESPADA are already on the brink of not just tying us up, but potentially being in the lead. The economy's in no great state for HellRaisers right now. They're on Deagles.
Dude, these last few rounds are like the best coffee in the world, let me tell you. This to wake you up and get you on the edge of your seat a little bit.
And this is just the first map of this best of 3 and the first map of today. Like, there's so much more CS coming up after this.
4 best of 3s, yes. We have a lot of CS. It's going to be a bit of a marathon for Vince and I, but we're having a good time. And this game has certainly delivered and given us a nice way to kick things off today, I think. It was looking grim for a while, to be fair. Thought ESPADA were just going to lay down, but it's been all that turned around in this half.
Shoulder peeking against Sophic. JR already landing 1 Deeg onto the forehead of Dexter. Doubles up. Dim is the next to fall. He was the weakened target, softened up earlier on. And this is going to get a little bit sketchy for ESPADA if they're not careful. They do have Finnegan on Pop Dog, smoking himself into safe passage, into Sanctuary. Another Deagle rips out. There's no kit store, no more grenades at the disposal of the CTs. It's going to have to be a raw retake. Here comes in Problem. AK-47 in hand, looking to try and tickle the bomb and draw out the players. There's a Molotov perfectly placed, and now Patsy can show his hand, but there's Flaric, and there's Kalinka. Is there the time to get the defuse in? No. It's going to be another valiant attempt by HellRaisers. This is going to be so frustrating for them. So many times they've got close, but not quite close enough.
That's really true. They've been successful on the fragging side of the retake, but on doing it fast enough has been the problem. And in that round, that was with Eco. They didn't have a kit, and then that's like a whole nother added X factor. So yeah, it really makes you believe like there's still a chance HellRaisers holds this off because of how some of these rounds have played out, where they're getting the frags they need. It's just, again, not as efficiently as they need. And so you have to wonder if eventually that's going to turn around for them or not. But either way, ESPADA have completed the comeback. They've tied this thing up 12-all, and now we start getting into the nitty-gritty. Some tense rounds ahead, I'm sure, Vince.
Oh yeah. I mean, momentum-wise, if you haven't caught the start of this game, it's completely in ESPADA's hands. JR comes back in with a kill, and there's Flaric, the weakened up, softened Dimmer. Has been put 6 foot under momentarily, and ESPADA now actually trail for the first time in quite a while in terms of manpower. Let's see if HellRaisers can actually put a stop to this ridiculous streak that ESPADA have.
Yeah, it's going to be tough on them. For ESPADA, they really don't have any information or map control to really work with. They do have a little bit of utility left. They have Dexter's AWP that could look for a pick, as he is going to be setting up a smoke for Outer. So it looks like they might try to take Outer a little bit, though we do see Finnegan flirting with the inner halls a little bit as well. So I think right now they're just looking to see if a CT is going to give them some type of opportunity. They're going to throw some utility towards outside to try to keep CTs interested. And they're actually using it to make some pushes forward, but this boost from Flares could be a big problem.
Oh, but he doesn't get the spray down. Sophic should have been a dead man. Should have been dead to rights. How he's still alive with 4 HP, I have no idea. And that could have been the round that went with it as well. Now the extra player could be huge. Dexter with the entry onto JR. Problem's also fallen down. And this is where Sophic's positioning and that extra man can prove to be so costly for HellRaisers. Have they completely shot themselves in the kneecaps here? On the approach, Dexter watching up to catwalk, spots Flaric, takes his head clean off, and Kalinka in no man's land, trying to regain what was once the CTs. Dexter's playing with him, playing with his food, and Kalinka is going to go down any second now. 23 HP remaining. He can't survive, he can't escape, he can't keep his gun, and ESPADA will take the lead for the first time in this match.
That is unbelievable stuff from ESPADA, and they're kind of doing some of the same things that HellRaisers were able to do effectively on their T-style, which is these very quick, decisive, mid to late round decisions on how you rotate and shift to the opposite site. They're doing a great job applying pressure to one end, but then being able to get to the other side on the exposure, right? They're creating the gap, and they're getting to that gap, you know, very rapidly. And it's really causing a lot of problems for the defense. And it's really been the case for both of these teams' defense. They both really struggled on handling the speed of their opponent, and that's just a freebie there for Patsy. It doesn't get any easier than that to pick up that frag. And when you're HellRaisers and you're around behind, you've been ahead all game long until now, and now you're throwing away players like this. I feel like they're starting to panic.
I don't know what you say if you're HellRaisers after having such a vast lead. Like, what does the IGL come up with? Where's the inspirational moments? Dexter, free pick onto JR, who tries to make the most of the opportunity of hearing that grenade come out, but he walks into the trap. He walks into his demise, and ESPADA looking to walk into the first map. And this is HellRaiser's choice as well, by the way, Dust.
Yep.
Like, you've basically choked your own choice of map. It doesn't get much more off than that.
No. And again, I questioned the pick in the first place just because it's a map that have a negative win rate on, mixed results. Could be said for both teams. Maybe that's why HellRaisers went for the pick. They thought their opponent wasn't very good on it. They thought maybe they've, in practice, come up with some new stuff to improve their play. And to be fair, their T side was definitely up to snuff, but they have not been there on the defense. And it looks like ESPADA's about to walk into a 14th round, and HellRaisers' economy is in really dire straits. And there it is, Dima with 2, putting the finishing touches on what will put ESPADA 1 away from map point. And again, HellRaisers' economy is not really going to allow them to say much about it, Vince. I mean, I think that ESPADA might have this in the bag.
It certainly seems that way, doesn't it? I mean, this is going to be 10 rounds in a row now. 10 rounds in a row on the T side. HellRaisers back into an awful situation, economically speaking, where they may feel like they have to go for the force buy again, and they are going to go straight in with it. But, I mean, everything seemingly like it's insurmountable now for HellRaisers. They have absolutely stumbled, tripped, and fell on this CT side.
They're putting all that they can into this round, and you can understand why they don't want to give map point away for free, but it is going to come at the cost of not having much utility or firepower, and if you lose this, you got really nothing in the next round. So they need to basically win out from this point forward. They did get the opening kill, but Dima was quick to respond on the opposite end of the map, and it's now into a 4-on-4.
At least they do get the 1-1 trade early on, but that's probably not going to be good enough when you look at their utility count, when you look at the lack of kits that they have. ESPADA have never really had issues getting onto sites. And problem, shoulder peeking with the smoke. He's going to throw it down instantly, but that's another part of the utility that goes with it. With 1 minute and 10 left, JLM with a cheeky off angle will reap the rewards onto Dimmer. But will that be enough to hold on? Because now there are no grenades left at the disposal at all of HellRaisers. Meanwhile, ESPADA have them to the brim. They have so many grenades to play with.
Yeah, but the numbers might help out HellRaisers, and they're well positioned as well. Problem with the great angle here from the bomb train, working with JR in tandem. Good for a couple of kills, but Dexter is fighting back with the AWP, picks up the AK. Look, it's a clean house here. Maybe by himself, just pull it all the way off. 1v2 going to be required, though, now to finish it.
He knew that flank was a possibility. Molotov down, able to replenish a few more bullets. Still only 11 left, but that is enough to decapitate both these players if he so chooses to go for that route. 20 seconds, trying to change up the angles, trying to get a little bit chaotic, a little bit random, but wasn't anticipating the flank on Catwalk side. And so HellRaisers, their first round in 10 is going to go their way. Maybe there are a few more twists and turns left yet, Dust.
Maybe, and indeed, that was certainly a nice try. You could see what he was going for there, closing the distance. He was going to try to turn tail and go to outer, knowing that the flank was behind him inner halls, but the timing just didn't work out for him there. Gets shot in the back. And so finally, HellRaisers, after a long drought, I think it was 10 rounds in a row for ESPADA there, finally get their round on the board right when they needed to most, to hold ESPADA off from that point, but they still have work to do, and their economy is still very much in a grim, dark place.
Certainly is. There's no two ways about that. Patsy I thought for a moment he was going to go crazy through the smoke there, but he decided against it. Didn't want to give anything away. He had Dimmer down to 7. So HellRaisers, I mean, fair enough. To show the tenacity to be able to bounce back is one thing, but to be able to pull it back entirely and actually win this map would be an entirely different one. One incendiary left with a minute to go as well is rough.
Yeah, obviously you had a guy on a FAMAS and a guy on MP9. Yeah, you won that last round, but it came at a cost of having to rebuy 4 players. So utility will pour out from ESPADA here onto the outer bomb site. All of your typical smoke that you would want to see for your standard set piece outer. The problem is the slider control that HellRaisers have, but they're being pushed off of it. At least he gets 1 kill on his way out.
Decent trade though. That was Dimmer, who had very low HP, that actually went out for the player that returned. So not too bad for ESPADA. 27 seconds left. JR is keeping them honest with his AWP, but he is going to fall victim to Dexter's AK-47, and now Problem. Last man standing, moving through an Ivy. No post plant just yet. Finnegan decides the B site is going to be a little bit more comfortable and safe, and he is going to get away with that one. So 2 for 1 now. And Problem needs to try and clutch this 1v2 if he decides to go for it. If he doesn't and HellRaisers lose, they're going to have very little economy for the last round.
Exactly. And that's the thing he has to think about. Do I go for this 1v2 or do I make sure we have at least 1 rifle going into the next round? And I think it's all going to come down to whether or not he can find a quick kill early and feel comfortable moving forward. If he can't, I think he does draw back and keep that M4. Certainly hunting around for that 1 kill, but he's not going to find it. Finnegan perhaps putting the final dots on the I's and crossing the T's of this game as it does go to 15. As you noted, and as we've been discussing, I feel like time and time again, it's the broken record of HellRaisers' broken economy. They obviously put together what they can, but you can see that it's really not much. They're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for this one. An auto shotgun, don't see that brought out too often on Strain.
Big kill from Jalem though with the FAMAS. Auto shot, going to be able to run back into connector, very narrowly getting cordoned off, and now Jalem goes back in with a second with a FAMAS, keeping the dream alive, keeping the light going a little bit longer before it gets shut out permanently from ESPADA, who are struggling here. It seems like they're now having a couple of desperation moments and a couple of moments where things are looking a little bit sketchy, but that's a big spray through the wall. Problem goes down, and now they're going to look to try and spill out onto the B site. It's only JR left. He is the player with the aforementioned XM and very low HP, so he just needs to stay alive. He is trying to bypass most of these Ts, but the bomb's back at T spawn dust. This has been an absolute mess of a round for ESPADA.
Yeah, this is definitely not intentional. They definitely probably did not mean to do this. They probably thought that they needed to leave it behind to like play safely towards outside, not get the bomb drop, but now it's really become their worst enemy. And now they might even have to shift their focus, but Patsy, big kill inside Z. This causes the CTs to scramble a bit. They're not really sure where this bomb's headed now with that pick. It could go either way. Bomb does sneak in through Olaf. There is, though, a CT in the outer yard that could really put a stop to this.
Very chaotic stuff. Flaric tagged down to 15. JR also low, but Jalem has the drop. He's picked up a 4K. Could be on for the ace here. He's had a slow game so far, but this would be a hell of a moment to really show just how good he can be. And Patsy going to try and neutralize that possibility. He gets smashed down from the FAMAS of JR on the cross, and HellRaisers is going to pull this back to a 15-14. It looked like the map may be done. It looked like it was over, but somehow they just held on.
Yeah, after losing 10 rounds in a row, they've been able to win a couple here in the last 3 to actually push this to round 30 and a chance to fight for overtime. Just on the lowest of buys, Jalem making the most out of the situation with that FAMAS. Again, one of the more inexperienced players on this team. Not a whole lot of history playing at a professional level before being on this team. Yet he pulls off an individual effort right when they needed that spark. He delivered it. And now we have to see where this goes, Vince. We're no strangers to overtime.
Certainly not. I feel like we're overtime veterans at this point, casting-wise. But will we get there?
Have to be up there.
Sort of fake aggression through here, man. This could be the last passage of play on train. Or perhaps we get a little bit more. ESPADA, opening pick. That's a big one at that. Jalem, who had such a phenomenal round in the last is now silenced and suppressed. And ESPADA still plenty of grenades, plenty of HP. There's not really that much of a dent been pushed into the attacking side. JR using the off angle to strong effect with one. And now Dexter goes through. He wanted to wide peek with an AWP. That is suicide. And now ESPADA, trailed by a player, and HellRaisers have a chance to take us to overtime.
Yeah, this is really tough. It's all going to come down to this intertake now. I think Finnegan did spot a player there towards the back, and will be able to get a smoke down to help cover his teammates coming through with that bomb. And they are going to certainly be able to get it planted here. He's going to continue to keep fighting in these back lines. He's doing a great job shutting down the retake before it can even really start forming. Patsy will take his place after he's fallen 2v2 post plant now.
Patsy has the drop, and the grenade was pulled out from Problem, and there's the next. Patsy gonna clean it up at the end. It was labored, it was back and forth. HellRaisers probably should have won it.